Let's get this party started.
Start your engine!
250 laps presented by Remax. Coming up next.
It's time, race fans, for the main event, the Remax 250.
And next time by, we're going to let them loose. This race, the last 2 years, has been won by Littleton's Ashton Tucker. Tucker will start position number 9 behind the King Racing front row. Austin McDonald and Corey Hall. Riverview Ford Lincoln Page truck is in. Alex Oblinus with the green flag in hand. The Remax 250 is green.
Ashton Tucker has a lot of work. He got roughed up in the heat races earlier. He's got to really, really lay the hammer down if he wants to make the three-peat.
Down the back straightaway, it's McDonald, Hall, Somerville, and Oblinus. Your top 4 is Sloan White gets to the inside of Snell, gets into him again.
Oh, no.
Sends him sideways. What a save by Ashton Tucker to stay up.
Oh, big
and
wreck.
We're wrecking behind.
Oh, Duncan hard hit. Rasmussen careens into the 97. We're all looking at Ashton Tucker. No damage on the 2, but a lot of damage on the 81 and the 97.
I don't know how Ashton Tucker missed the 10 car.
He needs a new pair of shorts, I think, after that one.
If he can come back and win this race,
Holy.
that's the defining moment right there on lap number 2.
Welcome into Tim's Corner Live, episode number 39. That was the start of the 2021 Remax East Coast Elite Realty 250, and we're going to chat with one of the drivers that was in there, one of the folks responsible for putting on that event, Brent Roy, in just a few moments' time. But Tim Terry, Dylan Langell, and Brandon Campbell tonight, because Brandon, where's Mr. Magic?
I think he's doing adult stuff like school or something.
Oh, something like that. He's not with us tonight, taking the week off. Dylan, we've had a busy week for being an off season. You've been doing some morning radio. We did the TCM 300 on Friday, so it's been fairly busy for being an off season so far.
I just want to say we are graced to be in the presence of Corey Hart with his sunglasses on at night. I just want to say that just is wonderful. No, it was a lot of fun doing the 300 to kind of kick off the iRacing season here, and fun battles virtually. My heart rate was going up announcing that race from the spare bedroom studio, and got to thank a lot of folks tuning into the morning show I was covering today. I know my buddy Scotty Too Hottie down in the States was listening. I had to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit for him when talking about temperature. I know Randy Titus was listening, and Danny Eddy, and all these racing folk were tuning into a little country morning show in Bridgewater. But we're back here to talk some bench racing, and we're going to talk a little 660. I just had to rewatch that beginning clip there, Tim, and what a wacky start to that 250 we had, where the 10 was spinning out, almost ran over poor Pat Healy in the infield. Ashton somehow didn't get damaged, and then we had all the drama with the 23 and 13 after. Just kind of reliving those memories here. And then we also had our good buddy Tim Webster kicking around with us that weekend as well, and by God, he's one of our guests here tonight. Yeah,
absolutely. This is going to be a fun evening. We're going to chat with Tim Webster here in a bit, the race director from the East Coast Mini Stock Tour. And of course, he's won a few races in a few places around Atlantic Canada in his driving career. And we're going to chat with Brent Roy in just a few moments as well. And kudos to Pat Healy on that shot as well that we saw off the top of the show for not getting run over. And the producer did a fairly good job too, right, Brandon?
Yeah, he's just the best there is. What did Ricky Bobby say that time? I'm just the best there is or something.
Yes, if
that's me.
I piss excellence. I'm just the best there is.
Yeah, that's me.
Whatever you want to call yourself, I guess we will roll with that. We also have the award finalists for 4 of our TCM Best of Racing Awards coming up here this evening, and we will start not with that one. We will start. I'm looking at the other screen. Let's start with the breakout performer. Nope, not that one. We got 4 of them. Let's start with this one before we go into our guests this evening. So, Dylan, I know me, you, and Denver had a very back and forth conversation about this breakout performer, because technically this is supposed to be a most improved driver sort of thing. And there are some names that got either omitted or didn't make the final 5 with our panel, because I think there's a little more ceiling to some of those names, but the names that are on our list definitely deserve to be there. Danny Chisholm could have qualified as a rookie, but we had him as a Rookie of the Year finalist presented by Kings County Performance back, I believe, in 2019. So the 5 that are on our list, you'll be able to see their accomplishments from the season that was when you go and vote on the final ballot tomorrow. So Alex Johnson, the 14 Sportsman car from Enfield, was a championship contender this season at Scotia Speed World. Braxton Stafford of the Atlantic Modified Tour picked up a few wins on that series. Obviously, Corey Hall, the Remax 250 winner, Riverglade International champion. Danny Chisholm, who picked up a couple of wins in the Maritime League of Legends Tour, as well as the Scotia Speed World Track Championship. And Sarah Thorne, who had a breakout season by winning a couple of features at Eastbound. So there is a panel consideration on this, but there's also a fan vote, which, by the way the panel went, this fan vote's probably going to determine this award, whichever way it goes, because it is so tight with the panel. You'll be able to cast your vote beginning on Thursday evening, which is tomorrow evening, on timscorner.ca. We have the finalists for the best looking car presented by Kings County Performance, the Kings County Performance Rookie of the Year, and of course, the 10th annual TCM Most Popular Driver Award coming up later in the show. But we want to leave you with a little bit of suspense. So let's start and let's chat about some racing, and we will do that with the driver of the number 26 from Speedway 660, and a guy that brings us a little bit of news here this evening, and that is Brent Roy. And we'll get the dates and stuff off the screen there. Paul is big. It is Thanksgiving weekend down there, so he is busy pushing buttons and everything else. And
pushing beers, you mean?
no, he's not pushing beers. Do you care to tell us what you're into tonight, Paul?
Yeah, we're experimenting with the different ratios from eggnog to Captain Morgan. So, Tim's Corner Motorsports and Bedane TV always remind you to drink responsibly.
What are you mixing at?
What?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Different ratios. Like, what did you experiment here with?
Well, I tried 1 to 3 rum to eggnog, and that wasn't high enough octane. So now we're at about 50-50. So if the B-roll gets a little bit jacked up tonight, it's Brandon's fault.
God, be a man. Make it 2/3 rum.
I feel like this might be a question for Richard Atkinson when he shows up, because I know he'll show up at some point tonight. So maybe we'll save that for Richard a little bit later. But let's go back and talk some racing. Brent Roy, how are you this evening?
Doing pretty well, guys. Yeah, just a note on Paul's drink of choice. I actually mix that with Jack Daniel's Fire whiskey instead of rum. But
I'll be right back. I gotta go.
And good night.
So obviously your off season has been busy with the back end of 660, getting everything ready for 2022. You've been doing some iRacing. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how busy has your off season been so far?
Man, I tell you, it's almost like the season has stopped, to be honest with you. Whether it's, helping you guys on the TCM stuff with iRacing, or, dealing with something, from Speed Weekend or the 2020 season, or 2021 season, or looking ahead to 2022, or, fielding a phone call for one of the teams, or talking to Donnie, or talking to Wayne, or talking to Barry. I could go on for hours on that, but, sleep doesn't come very often. So it's nice when you get it.
I know you want to hop into some of the back end stuff and the news that you're bringing from 660. But first, I want to go back and look at the race car portion of the season, because you've been on the show a couple of times. You were on our first show back in February. I know you were briefly on prior to Speed Weekend, but I want to talk about the driving end of everything. How did the season go for the 2016?
Honestly, it was a lot of fun. We went to the racetrack to, every time we went, we tried to, go collect a trophy and win and do well. I think we got on the podium once there, finishing second in one of the 100s or 125s or whatever. So, all in all, we went there to have fun, and that's what we did. And, not chasing points and having fun and trying something different, or, at one point we were loading the car up and found a broken shock, and it was on 11 o'clock at night. So Steve looked at me and said, well, you want to change it and put it back on the scales? I said, no, I was going to measure the frame rail height, put it on, and we went and finished second the next day. So, stuff like that. I was like, man, what are we wasting our time putting scales and hours of this? Just dig out the measuring tape, make sure the frame's at 4.5 and call her a day. But anyway, no, it was a lot of fun all in all.
And come out with a decent season car is relatively in one piece, right?
Yeah, actually, it's totally one piece. We went, I don't know if we hurt the motor on Speed Weekend or not, but we retired the car with a very familiar sound started. And before we had a very familiar look, I was able to shut it off. So last time that happened was 40 to go, leading the race, and we weren't in the same position. So we called her quits at that point, but I haven't taken it apart or anything like that. Not sure what's wrong with it, but I'm sure we'll find out soon.
So let's switch caps. Let's go from the driver to the race management, race operations side of things. Obviously, Speed Weekend was the highlight of the season. Let's go back and let's look at Speed Weekend as the race operations side of things. You had to be happy with everything that went on, eh?
Oh, 100%. It was a phenomenal weekend, start to finish. Introducing, bringing back the Friday night concert was a big hit with a lot of people. Being able to have racing as well on Friday night. We had a couple of people kind of standing around looking for cobs of corn, but, quickly pointed them over to turn 5 if they wanted to grab a cold one and watch some racing. But, I think that was, I think that proved that it's going to be one to stay, and looking forward to kind of having 3 nights of racing on Speed Weekend here on out.
We are live and interactive with Brent Roy, driver of the number 26, and one of the folks behind Speedway 660. Be sure to drop us a question or a comment, and we'll get to it. I know some of the NEPS guys are out there for later on this evening too,
God.
so I'm sure they will be here at some point. But let's keep talking about the racetrack. Obviously, the end of the season, not the way that you guys wanted to end with circuit breakers and COVID restrictions and what have you, and it ended up a good thing and a bad thing. It ended up canceling the Ricky Bobby 150 and postponing it to the start of 2022. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of teams. And when I went over to the Oyster Bed Banquet, there was at least 2 teams that already had that circled on their calendar for the May-June time, that they're coming over to start their season off with a bang, with a huge street stock race. So positives and negatives, I guess, from that all, right?
Well, that one's been kind of an urban legend getting traction. So I'm not going to be popular in saying this. We haven't totally confirmed that we're starting the season on that. That kind of was like a snowball that started on the top of a very tall hill and it's now run over a few people. But anyways, if we can make it happen, then that's fantastic. There's a lot of obviously planning to go into that. I don't know if we're going to have the label of the Ricky Bobby 150, because I really truly believe that you should have one. And you should have one only per year. But I'm not ruling out a big street stock race to start the season to make up for that, in a similar fashion. I don't know what we'll call it, but whether it's a popular decision or not, I doubt we'll see a Ricky Bobby 150 to start, but I think we'll see a big street stock race to start instead.
Well, Nashville did it with the All-American 400 a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, we're not Nashville though. Long ways from it.
I mean, you guys do concerts, so I guess you're close, right?
We're getting there. I'll tell you that. We are certainly getting there, for sure.
Something like that. I see Danny Harvey's joining us in the chat. Good to see Danny. And I guess, can we let the cat out of the bag as to what you're doing next year, or do you want to kind of leave that under wraps right now?
No, we can let it know. I told the team and everything this week and whatnot, after my longtime spotter and longtime one of my best friends, Steve, he just set the Guinness World Record for the longest game of curling, which, like, man, how many people know a Guinness World Record holder? I can say I do now, I guess. But anyway, super proud of him for all they're doing. But in 2022. We will, I will no longer be driving, the 26 car. I'll be standing on top of the tower doing the race director duties. Scott Kenny has done the last couple of years and did a great job and helped out a lot. I personally learned a lot from Scott. I'm sure he learned a lot, whether good or bad, from us and in doing it. But, it's something that he wanted to step away from it. And, it takes a lot of time to do that. And after, honestly, growing up around it and growing up with, one of these on my head when I was, 8 years old, and Dad brought me to the racetrack, I've always listened to race control. So kind of grew up around it, and it's nothing that's new for me in that regard. And something I'm pretty excited to tackle.
And I guess the question would be, we have drivers, and we're going to have one here in the second half of the show, in Tim Webster, that made the same move that you have. I guess, obviously, you want to help out, but maybe why race control rather than something else? And have you gone to anybody else on this race director role that might have been able to give you a little bit of influence? I guess that the news is just made, so maybe those calls will come here in the next couple of weeks, right?
Oh, well, Bob Goodwin blows up my phone every week, so I'm sure that'll continue. He skyrockets my bill, but no, I'm just kidding. As long as it's not an American number, he's fine. But I definitely spent a lot of time working with Brent Dumpy, who was before Scott, and traveling with him. I remember one time we got in the truck and I went to sleep and I woke up in Beach Ridge. Like, we've gone everywhere. So, in those and chats and talking about this and that, and, he's that close, and he's told me at any point, give me a call. I don't think the guy ever sleeps. So Brent's been a pretty good ally in the past. I know in the future he will be. And he's told me, like, look, if you need me for whatever it is, I'll be there and, I'll help you get you through. But, I've shadowed, Wayne at Petty, just stopped in there to say hi, and he drug me right up the tower and, stood there beside him when he did the race and stuff. So, it's definitely not something that I'm totally new at. I remember last year there was a iRacing event, and after night number 1, I took the microphone away from somebody. So, I got a little bit of my feet wet on that one. So, yeah, it's very much the same thing.
Now, obviously, moving from a race car driver role up to a race director role, obviously, with your late model sportsman experience, you got to hear the race directors at the time go through a show. Does that help you at all moving into that role?
Yeah, it does. One of the biggest things is, what you could relate from sportsman then to street stock now. And I think I said this story to somebody the other day, is that after a heat race, if you were being an idiot, I'd always remember Chris Johnson come on the radio and he'd say scanner on the 26 car, and then he'd give you a blast. And the best thing about it is, everybody else around you heard the exact same thing. So, it's at the same time, there's a fine line there too, that you can't just, yell and badger people. And, if there's good hard racing, and then there's not so much. And having been in the seat and being able to kind of see when stuff's about to happen is going to be a big advantage in my opinion. But also kind of realizing, as things develop, some things happen too, right? So it'll be a lot of fun. I think it's the first time at 660 we've had a race director that's actually, been I guess Scott does the 4-cylinder racing too. So I was going to say the first time somebody's driven, but Scott did that. So he brought that perspective as well. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it, in all honesty.
And we've got a few of those around Atlantic Canada that have done the same thing, including Danny Harvey, we just mentioned in the chat, and the gentleman coming up in the second half at Tim Webster. But before we go to social, I know Brandon's chomping at the bit to get over there. You're inheriting, obviously, it's your staff that you guys have put together and have been there for a while, but you're inheriting a staff up top. Mike Rogers was back on at the end of the season, and then Beaver Kuglin's been up there for years and years. Talk about those guys and what kind of experience you can pull from them as a race director with a rookie stripe on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, talk about Beaver for a second, man. I think that guy, apart from Wade, I think he's gone up those tower stairs more than anybody else, right? And now with Wade kind of missing a few races last year, and what the future looks like for him, not sure. He might his odometer might click over a little bit more than what Wade's is. So, Beaver's seen just about every lap there at 660, and he's a real good wealth of knowledge of whether it's a second or a third opinion on something. I've been up there and having to see that go on, or be the person to give my opinion on something or whatever, in the past. So between him and, Mike Rogers, the same way, man, like it was super nice to see Mike come back to the racetrack last year, and good to see that he's doing well and on the mend and stuff. On Speed Weekend, he looked at me and he said, well, Brent, that's my last layer. So after this, I'm going home. And then I think it was like 40 laps to go. He said, well, see you later. So he's seen him the next day. But anyway, no, it's nice to have those guys up there, and they're more than welcome to take their usual seat up there. And I'm not going to kick them to the curb by any means, because it's definitely nice to have those shoulders for sure.
Absolutely. We are live and interactive here this evening with Brent Roy, and we didn't have the new title down below for Paul to switch, but the new race director for 2022 at Speedway 660. Leave your questions and your comments. Brandon, going to throw it to you. But first of all, I know Richard Atkinson is with us now. So if Richard could tell us, because we talked about this off the top of the show, best thing to mix with eggnog for our producer, because it is Thanksgiving and he's experimenting. So if you have that over there that you can help Paul with, that's great as well. Brandon, what do you got on social?
Yeah, Paul could use all the help he can get. He looked like he was struggling earlier and he didn't even start yet.
I'll show you a struggle.
But just a quick little ad. Brent, I was talking to one of your Neps buddies, Jason Ricker, last night. And the first thing he said to me, he said, 1, show me the Johnny Clark wreck. 2, I heard you guys have a wild party at Speed Weekend.
Yeah. He can talk to a lot of people else too that'll tell him the exact same thing. I mean, a lot of the guys that we race with have been here in any capacity before. And, Friday night of Speed Weekend is usually a pretty big party. And I know John Miller has said a lot of very positive anecdotes about Speedway 660 and Speed Weekend, and how it's just a true we often say the village is 660, but it turns into almost a city on speed weekends. So it's a big party for sure, and I'm trying my best to drag him up here, maybe him and D'Souza and a couple of the other guys there for speed weekend this year.
Yeah, for sure. We talk about guys that try different roles other than the race car sometimes. So Tyler Hallahan's in here. I think he spots for Gary Elliott, right, Tim?
He does spot for Gary Elliott, and I can tell you, I'm pretty sure he's with us every weekend, or every week on this show. But he's waiting for another announcement, I think, at the end of the show as well. So good to see Tyler, and there's a guy that likes to party too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. Sean Brown's in here. Then we got the PEI regulars. We also have Janet Healy from Newfoundland, and then Jesse and Amber and Colin, all those guys. Alicia McKnight. I'm still scrolling. I talked to too many people on here. Daniel Adio says he didn't know we were so desperate to get Brent Roy back on the show.
What a nice guy that guy is.
This is the third. This is the third time, by the way. We haven't had a 3-time guest yet. So,
jeez, man.
Craig Slonwaite's made 2.
Craig Slonwaite's made 2. Ashton Tucker's made 2.
Yeah.
I feel like there's one more that we've had on here twice. Technically, Blankhorn's been on here twice. He was on as a guest host role, so I don't even know if that counts. But we've had we can count them on one hand how many people have been here twice. Now we can count on one finger how many somebody's been on here 3 times. So
hopefully it's not the wrong finger, but yeah.
Okay, whatever. Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I'm lost for a second now. We mentioned Danny Harvey was here. Richard missed the news, but he got filled in a couple times. Fred Bannister wants to know what's in the works for Speedway 660. Is there anything new or kind of out of the ordinary that's going to be tried this year?
Yeah, so after last week's show, one of the things that Justin Cole mentioned was, the schedule, and, Randy mentioned the same thing about having that every other week, or I'll call it approximately every other week, because there is a couple back-to-back weeks throughout the year. We look to template 2022 off of 2021. Hopefully that stuff all stays the same. That leaves us some off weekends that, a facility is sitting dormant. We're looking at avenues of what we can do with that acreage, on that time. We have an off weekend of no stock car racing. Maybe we bring something else in. Maybe we do something else. Maybe there's another event. Maybe something. So there's definitely some stuff in the works. Been talking to some other promoters, namely, a fella from The Rock, of what we can do late August. So, pretty excited to see what maybe we can do along those lines. But always up for ideas too. Don't be afraid to toss them my way, because
Stafford Speedway.
It's not an idea. That's a plight. That's a track.
How are we going to move Gary, New Brunswick to Stafford Springs, Connecticut?
A lot of COVID tests.
Yes, apparently. It's only an 8-hour drive. I just looked it up, so you didn't have to.
That's it?
That's it. So
wow.
When's Speed Weekend? I might have to make myself up there.
Labor Day weekend.
Oh, that's possible. We'll revisit that.
Paul, if you come and you bring Corey Casagrande and Zane Farrell, I'll make race fuel.
Okay, so that's happening now.
Huh.
Don't tell Mario.
Tell Mario too.
But to that point, I'll bring up the conversation that I had with Bud Greer at Sydney, and Bud built that place back in the I think 50s. I know Ken McIsaac will correct me if I'm wrong, but he told me, he said, kind of tongue in cheek, he's in his late 80s, and he said these boys have to have concerts and do something different when they're not racing. So I think you hit the nail on the head there too, of trying to maximize what you can at the racetrack and as a outdoor venue. So good on you. I see Alicia McKnight says golf cart races. We did have the little luggies or the baby Jeep races at some point this season, and those went over fairly well, right?
They did, yeah. It went over better than I thought, in all honesty. And I've learned that if my initial reaction is we probably should not do that, then that turns into we should probably do that. So, there was a t-shirt or something a year or two ago that, Mom and Kim said, what do you think of this? And up here, I was like, we probably shouldn't do that. And they sold out in like an hour. And I was like, well, I probably should have done that more, I guess. So ever since then, I was like, nope, you know what? Do what you want. That's perfect. Let's just do it and see what happens. So, yeah, the baby Jeep races will make a return for sure. We do actually, on that note, we want to see and test the waters on a return of bandos as well. So, what that looks like, not just, our awesome Speed Weekend event of the Bando Blast. We want to host a couple bando races throughout the year too. So that's something to look into. Something that I've been thinking about, just kind of threw that out there now. So probably took you a little off guard there, Tim, but something that we want to look forward to in 2022 is to have a bando race. Maybe it's 2 or 3 throughout the year, maybe 4 or 5 if there's interest. That, if you look at some of the racers now, you look at some of the racers of the sportsman division, the pro stock division, street stock division, they were running bandos 5-10 years ago. So I guess 10 years ago, but we want to try to rekindle that. And I think 2022 is finally a time to do that. I know Robert Lee has asked, if it's something we'd look at, it's, yeah, if the interest is there, let's make it happen. But, one of the things is we need to see if the interest is there. So we'll put those feelers out.
And we tried that a couple of years ago. And I think the main thing was we tried it back. I think it was the second week of the racing season. It was late May or early June. And the issue was we were trying to do a back-to-back with Petty. And it didn't work because there was rain and everything else. I think with those schedules back together now, I think that kind of helps it a little bit and kind of opens that door a little bit. And with all these racetracks working together and at least talking with the summit, it kind of helps everything too. And Paul, that's the wrong piece of B-roll that you have on the screen. So the rum or whatever must be working on that end. I do want to, Brandon stepped away for just one moment, but I do want to bring one question that he missed on social in his first round. Richard Atkinson wants to know who's driving your car next season.
That's going to sit idle for now, honestly. I don't foresee anything happening in that regard. I don't think in good conscience I could call a race with my own car being out there. I don't know if that's, can't predict the future, but if somebody want to sponsor somebody, stepping into a car, if somebody from, I don't know, southern states wanted to come up and headline something, like, there's a car there, but money makes that happen. So we'll see. I don't know. For now, it'll sit idle and ain't going anywhere for now, because I'll be clear on that. I'm not hanging up the helmet for good. I'm just setting it on the shelf for a little bit.
So what you're saying is Corey Casagrande can come up on Speed Weekend now, right?
Corey can now come. Man, I might dig it out just to recommend practice. I did say I was going to do that. I said he'd have to have a trip to the beach.
We'll get into the NEPS thing in just a bit, because I know there's some conversation that we need to have on that, but I'll kick it over to Mr. Langell, because he made his first trip to 660 a couple of seasons ago when we had this whole COVID-19 pandemic start. But Dylan, your first Speed Weekend experience was this year. So I'll let you have the floor with Brent.
Well, I had a great time. We were saying with Randy Titus last week how fun it was, not just with the racing, but the atmosphere after, and just the partying, we'll call it, and the kind of community within the campers and everything. But Brent, one of the reasons I was there this year was a last-minute change-up in a year of let's change stuff up at the last moment. You brought in the Hot Rod Classics at the last moment. What was your experience with them coming in, and what did you think of the race that they put on?
Well, it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of a finally moment. I've been after Patty for a while and probably driving him insane. At one point, he's like, yeah, I'm in sales too, so I understand, but like, I can't make it happen. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to call you next week, so hopefully the answer's changed. So, it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. It was awesome to see those cars at 660, and, I'm sure it inspired a couple people locally to build their own. I was like, yes, we finally did it. And then I said to Tim, we're going to put them on Sunday. And he's like, what are we going to do? Like, we have too much stuff. And I was like, okay, what did I do? So anyway, we made it happen. We made it work. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was, a few years of, of trial on that one to get us up there. And, you know, having you up there too was kind of like a finally we got Dylan up in the tower, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, I mean, I had a blast. The street stock race, the 250, everything. It was a good time. I'm looking forward to get back there next year, whether the hot rods are back or not. I'm hopeful that we will be, since it was a great success, I thought, with the racing. And then we end up going to Sydney this year. We weren't supposed to go, and the schedule kind of changed a few times, and hopefully it's a bit more firmer there. To kind of leech off a few questions there, I think Richard asked it in the chat, and then Tim brought it up. With you not racing the 26, let's say you can't do it at 660, but maybe like a Mike Stevens weekend, would you dig out the 26 car for a race where you wouldn't be race directing? Or is 2022 kind of I want to get this race directing stuff done firm before I get back behind the wheel?
Fair question, honestly. I think last year we went to, not last year, yeah, 2021, we went to Mike Stevens on a kind of a last minute decision at that. So not saying no.
I mean, if the Oval Outlaw would go to the 250, you could go to the Mike Stevens race.
Yeah, and then maybe we all go to Robbie's track and PEI.
Yeah. Wasn't Robbie Tim supposed to get behind the wheel of a car at the 250?
Probably
or that
got
fall
lost
through?
on his way,
Got
ran out of
lost?
fuel or something.
When's the last time that you saw Robbie race a pro stock? We kid because we care, but
I've never seen him race a pro stock, I don't think.
it's been a while, and I think there was an issue where he ran into Randy Miller on a Monday show at Oyster Bed, and the end of the career wasn't the greatest. We kid because we care. I'd love to see Robbie back in a race car, but Robbie's doing a phenomenal job over there at Oyster Bed Speedway, working everything together. The banquet was phenomenal. I'm sure that question will come up at some point tonight. Brent, so be prepared for that. But he's done a phenomenal job over at Oyster Bed Speedway. And you did have one start in a sportsman car over there, didn't you?
Yeah. We went over there with Jeff Armstrong actually years and years and years ago. And he did the setup on the car before we head over. And then they did a 100-lap sportsman race. It was after Speed Weekend that year. They did single car qualifying, and we went out, and this can be like a humble brag for a sec, but we went out and qualified 3/10 faster than the entire field. So that was a lot of fun. But the engine went south about 25, 30 laps into the features. So didn't get the win on that one. I think Jordan Vino actually won that race. And then the HEI distributor in the Ford and all that ensued after that. But anyways, regardless, that was a fun weekend, to be in PEI. I got family over there and stuff. So it's something that actually has crossed our minds of, taking the 26 back over there at some point, whether it be for, an open show or, somewhere that, like, we don't have blue shocks, so I can't run the tour race, but, maybe they'll have an open show that allows those shocks and spend the weekend with some family. It's an off weekend for 660 potentially. And, if it lines up, why not?
Before Dylan pops back in here, because I kind of took half of his question, but I kind of want to come full circle because I know Paul has some still photos in the drive from your last trip at Scotia Speed World back in 2015. If it does come to one of those times where you can rules aren't an issue, and you put that aside and you're able to come back to Scotia Speed World, would that be something that you look at? And is there any other racetrack you kind of have on your radar in Atlantic Canada that you kind of want to run?
Well, I mean, to date in a pro stock, I've only run 660 and I've only run Petty. So, in the sportsman, we ran 660 Petty, Shediac. We went to PEI once. We went Scotia once. I've never been to Riverside in my life, which a lot of people go when I say that. Which I kind of ashamed saying that in general. But IWK 250 weekend is you hear about that all year, every year. So that might be one. I wouldn't say the Cat 250 because that's too high of a bar to go for a first time. It would be fun to go to Scotia. Having driven Scotia in a sportsman, it'd be fun to go to Scotia in a pro stock, just because the two cars drive so much different, right? Pro stock is very, it's a point and shoot, but there's also a lot of finesse, and a sportsman is, there's a little bit of play in a lot of the stuff, and it's a little bit more of a toboggan sort of thing.
And by the way, the picture that we did have on there too, I know we talked to the Roma boys last week, but Brentley Perry is another guy I'd like to see back at a sports and race, at least at Scotia Speed World in the next little bit. So one of those things that hopefully we see him return after COVID in 2022. But Dylan, do you have anything else? Because I kind of cut you off there a little bit.
You're stealing my thunder, but no, but it's good though. It's fun that we're kind of, taking over each other because it's a great conversation here with Brent Roy, the new race director at 660. If you missed that announcement about, 20 minutes or so ago, we're talking about you not necessarily racing full time in that 26 anymore, not hanging up the wheel forever though. My next question, Brent, we hear a lot of drivers mention this where they'll get behind the wheel of anything. Would you get behind the wheel of a street stock or maybe a 4-cylinder in New Brunswick next year, whether it's at Petty or maybe Shediac, or maybe you go up to the Miramichi and give a crack up there? Would you get behind the wheel of anything if offered?
They're laying the groundwork here for Denver, setting something up for sure, I can tell. But I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I think Lonnie put it best one time. He was asked that question. He said it's a lose-lose situation no matter what you do. But I've actually never set foot in a street stock. I've always said that'd be kind of fun to get in one of those and see what they're like now. They'd be similar to when we probably got our first Sportsman, whenever the heck that was. But 4-cylinder, I wouldn't know where to start on one of those. I'd probably look pretty like a fish out of water in one of those. I've always wanted to try a legend car. I'd probably be terrible in one of those too, but I've always wanted to try one of those. They look like a lot of fun to drive, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe if something comes along in the future. Can't see me hopping in something for a 2-lap affair or something, but I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, you can't predict the future, and I never want to say no.
One more for me, and we'll throw back to Tim over here. And maybe this question will stir the pot. I don't know if Tim had it planned out to ask a little later in the show, but he just wrapped up the short track summit at St. Louis Bar and Grill in Moncton. In years past, from my perspective as a Nova Scotian, sometimes this New Brunswick tracks wouldn't all be on the same page. As part of the ownership group with your family of 660, now race director, how do you feel all the tracks in New Brunswick with yourself, 660, Speedway's Miramichi, Petty, and Shediac, how do you think you're all going to work together in 2022 to make it for a great product and with schedules and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the tracks have been doing as of late, and we kind of did this before the days of the summit, is sharing the schedules and sharing potential dates and trying to iron out potential issues before you see them all on the websites, and then it's like, oh, this one and this one, why did they not talk to each other, right? Or maybe it's this one and this one. So it's definitely come a heck of a long way, but is there still room to go? Yeah, absolutely. There's at the end of the day, you got 660, you got Petty, Miramichi, Shediac, and they're just in New Brunswick, and they're 4 individual businesses, right? At the end of the day, they're business, and people need to also understand too that it's a business. And one of my buddies on the NEP side of things, NEP series side of things, we always kind of make fun of him because he says it's for the fans. Man, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't be here. People can say the race cars are the show. Yep. 100%. The race cars are the show. Who watches the show? Who pays to get their butts in the seat to watch the show? If there wasn't a fan in the seat, there would be no show. There'd be no race car. There'd be no racetrack. I don't know what I would do. I'd probably sleep more, I guess. But, at the end of the day, it's for the fans. So, the tracks need to work together for that. I think Keith McIntosh said it the best at the start one is, the inventory of racers, inventory of race cars. You can't have 3 street stock races in the same day, the same province. Ain't gonna work.
It's one of those terms that the inventory term is the greatest term, I think, to describe it. It's not necessarily maybe the best term to use, but it's the best term in the way of trying to make it make sense for everybody. That's it. And I can tell you from the Sydney perspective, when Greg and I did the no fans deal, there's no money to be made on a show like that. From a business perspective side of things, we had the budget that if this, and this fall into line, we make a couple of $100 at the end of the day. And that's if everything fell into line and then we hit rain. And obviously, how that works. So it's one of those things where it's a business, it's a recreation. Everything needs to come into line, and I think, and you can speak to this too. I think everything compared to where we were 3 years ago, I think everything is a little bit closer to where everybody at least is working together, or at least if there's a conflict, at least there's a flow of communication.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll be the first one to admit I have been the best at communicate back to other teams, tracks in some respects, but it's what it comes down to is communication. And if A, B, and C happen at racetrack A today, then racetracks 2, 3, 4, and 5 should know about it by Monday, sort of deal. So, yeah, that communication with schedules, communication with series, communication with the drivers, all that stuff has come leaps and bounds. And I think I don't know. I'm not in your shoes, Tim, but I don't know who you approached, first. But I remember when you brought it up to me, it's like, hey, I have this idea. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. I'm in, regardless of who's there, whether it's just me and you sitting in a room or not. I'm in. I think it's great for the sport and great for the longevity because, I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I want them to be able to race it someday too, right? So, not only, that's where my interest lays, to a degree, is that I remember growing up there, and I remember the good old days, and I want to have some good old days in the future, and that's only going to come through hard work. And the at the risk of sounding whatever, there's some people within the industry that need to realize that it's for the fans, right? You have those good old days and you say, man, the stands are packed. Yeah, you'd see a race car in every corner the Saturday before the show. You don't see that anymore.
No, and I think it's one of those things that when you have those days, you bottle it up and you kind of try to rekindle the magic. Dylan can attest to this too. We did that Sydney show at the end of the season. I keep coming back to Sydney because it's one of those racetracks that has gone through the ebbs and flows of everything. And we did the live show, and I got a message from somebody in St. John that was watching, and they had told me, they said, you guys got some people there. And Dylan, I kind of looked at you when I said it. I said, yeah, there is some people there. I didn't recognize it. We were in Victory Lane a couple of times each by the time that had come through. But again, it's one of those things that it's for the fans, but it's got to be the right equation and everything else. Obviously, Sydney with their first show knocked it out of the park, but it's a matter of trying to get everything together, right?
Yeah, I mean, and what a tricky year with COVID, especially this part 2 of COVID, we'll call it, where we had tracks that could run with half capacity, some could run full capacity. We had bubbles for a bit. Proof of vaccination kicked in towards the end of the year. But that Sydney show, and even with the proof of vaccination, man, that place was packed. And it was so great to see when we would go on the front stretch to chat with the drivers, to look and to see the fans supporting the track, and the drivers also supporting. There's so much that goes into it, where you need the sponsors and the local businesses to help out if they can. You need the drivers, of course, and you need the fans to be there. You need the officials. You need the right people to be in the right spots. And I think that was a great way to cap off the year. And hopefully it leads us to a strong 2022 where hopefully there's not as many ropes and hoops we have to jump through to get some good racing. And then it's always about weather too. And I for the most part, I would say that the weather gods treated us great this year, especially that last weekend at Sydney, Tim. I think that also is a hand too, where if there's a bad threat of weather, is someone going to risk going out if there's a good chance of rain or not, right?
Yeah, we were through that a couple of times. And I think for the most part, and I'll knock on wood, except for that first weekend in October, everything seemed to be somewhat okay, give or take a little touch and go. We had a triple header weekend that shouldn't have been a triple header weekend in Halifax, and ended up getting through it. But before we go back to social, because I know social's the blaze, drop your questions and your comments here. We've got another 15 or so minutes with Brent, but go back to that street stock deal, Brent. We talked about the amalgamation and the summit helping out a little bit of the scheduling in that division. And it also birthed the Maritime Street Stock Series for the first year. And Michael Cormier came away with that. And he came away with a trophy that you built, right?
Oh, yeah. Kind of forgot about that. Yeah. I was that started as a brainchild for something else. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if there was a camshaft in the trophy? It'd be a little ironic given the last few years. But anyways, so yeah, I kind of whipped something together there. And after everything that happened at Miramichi, we didn't know who the exact winner was until, a little bit afterwards and such. So he at the meeting there, I gave it to Barry, and Barry was able to present to Michael his trophy. That will be a reoccurring trophy. So as long as the series is active, which looks like 2022 it will be, the next winner will get their name on that trophy next, and then get to keep it for the next year.
So you're a one and done in the trophy building business, right? Is that it?
I had a lot of fun doing that. So you might see something else. I don't know. If anybody wants to donate parts to do that, whether it be whatever, something maybe you can't run anymore or something along those lines, or whatever. So it's always fun to kind of stick some stuff together, and then after the end of the day, you got kind of a neat looking thing at the end of it. So yeah, I foresee maybe something in the future.
Barry has 8-foot trophies for the street stocks up there in Miramichi. We're going to have some wild things for the baby Jeep races coming up at 660 this year. I can just feel it. Brandon, are you still with us over there?
Yeah, I'm still awake.
What do you got for social over there? Because I know it's been a while since we've been over there, and there's a few comments sitting there.
Yeah, I just want to go back to one from earlier from the Atkinson crew. And I know you guys just built the new tower and all that stuff. So is there anything in the works renovation-wise for the track this year before next year?
One of the things that we ran into an issue this year is actually the track surface. We tried to fix where the cars run gets the most use, and where you turn it gets the most, it peels the pavement out. So towards the end of, I think, 2020, it was getting really bad shape, and then we had somebody come in and repair some spots, and that repair didn't really hold very well. So I went to work doing some homework and trying to find a fix for that. I found it. I found the fix. It's actually the same place that they have the contract for Watkins Glen exclusively, and they also do patchwork at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So if it's good enough for them, probably be good enough for what we need to do. So looking forward to seeing what sort of chemistry I got to do to fix that. But yeah, that's top priority of myself, is the actual surface of the track, because that's your product, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually that's what they said in their comment was about the track, but I kind of just grouped it into all. What else do we have in here? Freddie Bannister wants to ask if you plan on running points for all divisions next year.
That's the plan. At the moment, we got to, one of the things last year is we didn't run pro stock points. I'd like to return to that, but it's one of the things that I'm going to try to tackle this winter, is that you can't run points with 4 or 5 full-time cars. You got to have, a full field. What's it take to get a full field to do that? At the end of the day, it's a business. Does it make business sense to do that? Where does that look? We understand also, these guys can't buy 4 tires every single race. That's crazy. It's it's kind of a catch-22, and hopefully with some relaxed scheduling of races, then we can go back to points racing, because ultimately that's where the sport is born, is local short track Saturday night points racing, having a battle between I remember I couldn't get out of my sportsman car fast enough the year that Lonnie Somerville and David Blinas both went toe to toe for, I think Lonnie ended up winning the title. But like at the end of our feature, I didn't know where we finished. I didn't care. I got out of it because I was like, I need to watch this pro stock race, because it was like whoever beat who was going to win the title. And it was like exciting all year long. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to those rivalries between, a couple people. And whatever that's going to take, I don't know, whether it's a mix between, media and, the characters on the racetrack, and I don't know, but we'll see what we can do to rekindle that.
By the way, as we keep going through social, the trophy is on the screen right now. So for those that didn't know what Michael got for the Street Stock Championship, that's what it was. And thank you to Paul for finding that. Brandon, continue on.
Yeah, Bob asked that question. So that must be all his cheating parts that you confiscated?
He gave them up willingly, actually. I didn't confiscate anything, but yeah. So we got a piston on top there with connecting rod, some spark plugs. Spark plugs are from a 604 crate motor that met its demise at the end of the 250. Actually, cam gear, a couple camshafts donated by Bob. I didn't put them on the doctor though, so I don't know if they're legal or not. I have a guess. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of fun to put together. Could see some stuff for the future. That was done in honestly a few hours in the shop. So if I had some more time, a little bit more planning to do it, and I didn't leave something for the last minute, I might have something a little cooler.
Michelle Roy wants to know, when's the schedule going to be released?
Why would Michelle Roy ask that? Jeez. I've been working on it, honestly, and we're hoping by Christmas season to maybe give a Christmas present to all of our folks. To we have our schedule out, but basically it's going to be mirrored off of last year. That's the starting template. So the question really comes from, are we going to do the same every other week? And the answer is yes, to a degree, as long as there's not any major conflicts and as long as it works out similar to what it did last year. So, that's really the root of most of those questions, and that's what they can expect.
Yeah, for sure. And Tim, we have someone jumping the gun. Jordan Fraser wants to know about the most popular driver, and I think that's at the very end, right?
Every time she asks, it goes like another 20 minutes past. And at this point, Paul is going to be here until 12 midnight if she keeps asking. But we know Paul has some things to do tonight. So it's probably going to be near the end of the show. I've been going through here and a couple of other things. Sheldon Stephen Burke wanted to know, question for Tim, how does Eastbound compare to the rest of the racetracks in Atlantic Canada? I always say when I go to a racetrack, they ask what my favorite race is or what my most important race is or whatever. And I say it's the next one. Love going to Eastbound. Every racetrack has their own little nuance that makes them great. I will tell you though, I'll let you in on a little bit of that round 2 balloting or the round 2 voting for the Best of Racing Awards. We had, I think, 5 different racetrack awards that had to pertain to racetracks, events, what have you. I can tell you that 5 different racetracks won those 5 different awards. There was not one racetrack that took 2 awards this year. So that's kind of nice with the fans doing that as well. Corey Lund, sounds like there would be interest in the large pro stock event at Oyster Bed Speedway, and I'm pretty sure there would be. They did put a couple of extended distance races up there. And another guy that's in there that I know Tim Webster has raced with before, and I know he's going to be tuned in for the Tim Webster portion of the show, but Nick Baker is watching us as well, saying 22 is going to be a great season. Margie wants to know, what should I wear? So I don't know. She was replying to the schedule comment, but I guess we'll ask about the banquet. Is there a banquet? Or
nobody asked about the banquet? What are you doing?
Well, she said, "What should I wear?" And I don't know. I don't know where
clothes.
I don't know where she's going with that. So because it's going to be asked at some point. Have you guys thought about that yet? Because I know it's a moving target for a lot of racetracks, not just yourself.
Yeah, it is. It's something that me and Mo have discussed a little bit. It's, with everything going on, it's nothing that we can really do logistically well right now. And if we can't do something well, we don't really want to do it, right? And I know that's probably not the best way to put it, but if you can't do something 110%, don't do it at all. So, right now, there's no concrete plans for something along those lines. That doesn't mean that, our 2021 champions won't be celebrated, whether it's not a banquet in January or whatever that looks like, whether it's something in, April, May that, we figure something out that's, some sort of celebration then. Or whatever the case, I remember when, winning those titles, going to that event, you bring a sponsor and, it's a big deal. So it's not something that we want to just, sweep under the rug, because those guys work incredibly hard, guys and girls. Tim, you might have to back me up on first time women champion on Alexandra, but anyway, we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
We want to be able to celebrate those, because that takes a lot of effort to do. And, I just come off saying we need to celebrate weekly racing, and, we need to follow through on that too. So it's something that's come up. There's not a plan in place yet, but it's also not forgotten about either.
And I know from the banquet side of things too, me and Mike James had the conversation about Eastbound, and it came up. He said, what's everybody on the mainland doing for banquets? And I said, Oyster Bed had just done their award ceremony per se. But he was even talking about doing March, and he had even mentioned something about at the very start of the next racing season. So I know there's racetracks that are getting, I don't want to say inventive, because reinventing the wheel on a banquet is a little, doing something different compared to, but honoring the champions in some way, shape, or fashion. And it doesn't necessarily have to be at the end of the season, because I know you guys typically do yours in January. So if COVID's unpredictable, but it could very well end up being a couple of months after that, and it's still the same, honoring the champions from the year before, right?
Yeah, 100%. Usually we do it, I think 2 weeks before the NASCAR season started, kind of that area. Basically asked Richard Atkinson when his birthday was, and it was usually that weekend. So anyway, I at this point, I don't foresee that happening, but like you said, COVID's unpredictable. So, if you would have told somebody 2 years from right now, what would have happened in the last 2 years, they wouldn't have told you in a million years what the world's gone through in the last 2 years. So hard to say where we're going to be in January. Like I said, if that looks like something, then maybe we do March, April, beginning of May. We'll see.
Or bring John Miller up and he can run around with you guys and do trophy presentations again, right?
We can get him up here. I'm game.
Okay. Well, there you go. We'll have to talk to Mr. Miller. I do see Richard Atkinson. I'm kind of taking Brandon Campbell's job, but I did want to cover this one.
He's probably asleep.
He probably is. He's probably trying to get his RKM setup shop car to get going, right? I heard you
working on it.
Yeah,
they're pretty good at getting it going, but I can't figure this thing out.
Oh, well, there you go. Richard Atkinson asked, and I think this question kind of answers itself about the outlook on tires for next season. I don't think anybody really knows what's going on with tires, because we're still technically in a Hoosier shortage, right?
Yeah, hopefully they're round and still black. Holding air at times, some other times not, maybe. But no, in seriousness, we don't know. I think the outlook for 2022 isn't much better than 2021, but we can take 2021 and learn from it moving forward. So as long as we try to leverage that and do that, then hopefully we'll be in good shape. But as far as the exact outlook, I don't know just yet. We'll see. Hopefully still black and round though.
Lynn Cashel wants to know about the 2021 Ricky Bobby. We already kind of answered that question, and it's back. You can go back and listen to the archive here once it's all said and done here this evening. Actually, I think you can go back now and take a look at it if you really wanted to, but keep in touch with the conversation here. Colin Brewer brought up a really good point. Can you believe this, Brandon?
Yeah, I was reading it and I thought somebody hacked his account.
Do you want to deliver that?
Sure. The spelling's actually not as bad as it usually is either.
Wow.
He basically says, with how everything's so expensive, do you have any idea on how to keep the cost down and keep the racing still good?
Actually, on that note, the lower the cost of the racing, the better the racing. Simple as that. The higher the cost, think about where the cost comes from. The cost comes from buying racing parts or specialized parts or this or that. Half the field can afford this. A third more of the field can afford that. And then that starts weeding down, and then you get this bigger and bigger gap. The more you restrict down the cost of stuff, the better the racing is. And all too often, people will look at rules and say, we need this. And I'll say, why? Well, the common answer is it'll last better. So that just tells me it's going to make them go faster. Faster doesn't put on a better show for, remember those fans that pay the bills? Faster doesn't always equal a better show. Sometimes slowing people down equals a better show. So to answer the question, as far as my ideas, I got tons of ideas. I'm not going to share them all here because I'll get shot through the screen, but keep the cost down, you'll have better racing. That's my opinion anyway.
What are you running, NASCAR now?
Nope, not even close.
Virtually.
Run a couple TCM races at times when I'm asked to, I guess. That's about it.
Well,
as close as I got.
you showed up unannounced on Monday night. How did that go? You actually finished the race, right?
Yeah, Brandon, where did you finish?
Well, I was ahead of you, and the next thing you know, I'm sitting in the fence, and there's a Mark Martin throwback up the side.
Who
of
won
me,
though?
I don't remember.
Between me and you, who won?
Oh, between do we remember who finished the second? Or
Do we
in this
remember
case,
who finishes
like
anywhere other than first? I don't even
What I
remember.
say to you after the
first.
race, Tim?
What's that?
What I say to you after the race?
I don't know what you said
You
after
said
the race.
you said, well, geez, you got a top 10. I said, yeah, I don't care. I beat Brandon.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Barely.
I want to go back
Well,
before we get into the NEPS conversation. I know Randy Titus is watching. He was on the show last week, and we've had BJ and Matt and a few others on the show, and I want to get Daniel and a few others for that 4-cylinder class on this show. But you talk about they don't have to go as fast as a pro stock in order to put on a great show. The growth of the sharpshooter division at Speedway 660. Randy was talking about new cars being built and potentially seeing 30, 40, whatever the number might be, the thought of B-mains, all this other stuff coming back. So I just want to get your general take on the sharpshooter class, what you think of it. I think the racing's phenomenal. But what's your take, and where do you see it going in the future?
It's funny that like having so much of a good thing could actually be a problem. And that's the way I look at it. It's actually a problem. And it's not a problem from having too many cars. And it's like, we don't need that many cars. It's a problem because I see the guys that run 15th to 30th, and I don't want to get them discouraged. I want them to have success. And credit where credit is due. BJ and, Darren and Matt and Randy and those guys, and, Daniel too, they work their tail off and they earn those wins. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if you go there and you run 26 every single day, you're not going to get as encouraged as if you have some flashes of success. So that is something that I don't think B-mains would solve. I think what would solve that is actually creating two divisions, of having a hierarchy of masters or not, or whatever the case. It's something we're playing around with right now. I can tell you that the sharpshooter rules are not changing at all for 2022. We discussed that with Donnie. Not a single change in the rules for 2022. And one of the things that we're actually been looking at, I'm going to put this out there for a feeler too, is potential interest in a mini stock division, which would create that separate divide of the two divisions. It's a line that I'm trying to toe carefully because I don't want to ruin a great thing that we got going. But I also want to have an ability for the guys that run up front all the time to still go run up front and have a new challenge and run up front with each other, but then have the true starter division and have guys that have success there too. So it's a difficult one, because if we get 40 cars that show up on opening night, like that's too many. Really, you can't start them all, and we gotta figure it out, but also have everybody included too, right? So a lot of ideas in that.
Sorry, Tim. I just want to ask kind of Brent, would you be thinking, if you don't establish a mini stock division, would you have almost like a relegation system where maybe you have 15 top guys, and if someone wins in the lower division, you bump them up? Maybe someone who's in the top division has a couple of bad finishes, you throw them back down. Would it be something like that you're kind of hinting at or thinking maybe?
Well, let's do the Dale Jr. podcast, and he had on Robert Presley. Robert Presley had a lot of good ideas that he mentioned just in that podcast. So that was an idea, every week, take the top three finishers from the bottom division. If you want to call it the bottom division, I wouldn't call it that, but Division B, take the top three finishers, put them in Division A, take the bottom three divisioners, put them in Division B, sort of thing. So a lot of ways you can split it. We'll see. I would truly like to start a mini stock class as well, though, because I think that we're missing out on some potential cars. There's been a lot of guys crying for imports, and I think it might be time to embrace that and start looking at that. So nothing's official. Of course, give me feedback. I'm sure my phone number, my inbox is going to blow up with, opinions on that stuff, and it's all great. I read them all. I might not respond to it right away because I'm crazy busy, but I do read them all. I promise that.
And I think it's a problem that Scotia Speed World, to an effect, had about 20 something years ago. And it's something that we might be able to pick the brain of our next guest, waiting in the wings of Tim Webster, when we talk to him in just a few moments' time. Because when that Thunder division had 60, 70, 80 cars, they brought in the Lightning division for those drivers that were just starting out. It became a novelty division at the start, and then it became one of all its own. And now that Lightning division is the show in Halifax every Friday night. So maybe it's something that but there's so many ways to skin a cat. It's just like when you line up a car for a heat race, or you line up divisions for heat races, and how you line them up for the feature. At some point, somebody is not going to be happy with the way you do it. It's going to be, it's just that thing that you're not going to make everybody happy. We're going to make last call on social media now, because I want to get to Tim Webster here in a bit. And we've got some award finalists to name as well. So last call on social media. If you have a question or a comment for Brent that isn't going to blow up his inbox tomorrow morning, let us have it. But
blow it up anyway. That's fine.
Yeah. Drew McEachran says not a great idea. we'll chat with Tim about that and see what that was like back in the day, because I know he was a part of that deal. But Brent, as a race director, as being a part of the ownership group, as a part of just being a race fan at 660, obviously we're still a few months away from it. But what are you most excited for coming up as a race fan, as a race director in 2022?
Geez, I don't know. I think as a race director, trying to do my absolute best to be available to, all the teams, all the teams, all the drivers, to, welcome open, honest feedback. And, hopefully that's a two-way street, that they're open to receiving open and honest feedback. Because, a lot of people have told me, in the past, that, look, we don't ask for your opinion unless we want to hear it, because we're going to hear it regardless. We're going to hear what you think, whether we like it or not, sort of thing. So if we ask now, I'm looking forward to that, building those relationships with teams and stuff. I'm looking forward to trying to shorten the show. One of the things that we've struggled with in the past is show length. I want to, in my opinion, 3 hours or less. You want your first green flag to your final checker flag, 3 hours. That's it. Obviously Sunday Speed Weekend is a bit of an exception. But other than that, you need it at 3 hours, and you need to, pull like hell to make it happen. So working on that from a fan point of view. Looking forward to Speed Weekend again. I'm hoping that with everything in the COVID world relaxing, working on some programs and working on some stuff to welcome back some American cars for the 250. If everything goes well in that regard, I'd like to see anywhere from 5 to 10 American cars added on to our already great field, right? It certainly brings that race to new level. And then seeing a local guy be able to defend home turf would be better, honestly. Apart from that, the track's working together. From a fan point of view, I don't think the sport's been in a better place in a long time. I think that if you want to go somewhere on a weekend, you want to watch racing, you can go do it. And that's a great thing.
Now, before we go, we have to talk about the iRacing side of things. We've dabbled on it a couple of times here in the last 60 minutes or so, but I didn't get to see the last NEPS race, which was at Watkins Glen. We're showing highlights of Daytona, so I'm not sure how you finished there, but I know you were starting off the season real well. So for those that don't know, you race with the New England, Pennsylvania series on a regular basis. It can be found on Bedane TV. How is your racing season gone so far on the virtual side?
I think 4 out of 5 races. I don't know how many races we had. 5 races. 4 out of the 5 of them have been pretty good. The other one, I don't know what the heck I did in qualifying. Started the back and then spent all day working my way to the front. And then on a green white checkered, racing deal kind of got us back to, I think we finished 20th. So I was 3 up from where I started. So took that as a positive. But no, that's a lot of fun. It's a huge stress reliever for me, honestly. You kind of strap in a car that if you wreck, it doesn't cost you a penny. You know, you're on there with a great group of guys that take it serious enough to make it fun, but they're also loose enough that if something happens, they're not, you know, yelling at you and caps lock this and caps lock that sort of thing. So it's actually a ton of fun, and something that, you know, 2 years ago, I think Corey Casagrande invited me to it, and first race I was like, what am I doing? And then this year we started painting our cars as like our actual real life cars. So it's a lot of fun to, you know, going down the straightaway and you're, you know, beside Wyatt Alexander and you got John Peters in front of you, and it looks like they're real life cars. So it's it's something I thoroughly enjoy.
And I think the cool thing, and I wish Denver was here. It's one show that he missed, and I'm sure he's watching. But the week we got rained out at 660 back in, I think it was June, end of June, start of July. The sports and race that we ended up raining out, and we ended up at Brittany's and watching the Jennerstown race for the Cars Tour that Pit Road TV, one of our affiliates, put on. And I'm watching the I think it was the limited race. And I'm looking on the screen and saying, okay, I know Casagrande, I know Brandon Marhefka, I know these guys, Zane Farrell, that race in the NEP series. So for those that might not think the sim racing thing is for them, there's some names from New England that they might recognize racing door to door with you, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, if you watch, you know, Speed 51, or it could be, you know, anything from a pass race or Granite State race or the Jennerstown Masters, you know, Zane Farrell races there weekly. Brandon Marhefka, you know, we race with those guys every week on NEP. You know, the past guys where it's, you know, whether it's, you know, like I said, John Peters or, you know, Evan Boiler, Evan Beaulieu, Evan Belvedere, however you want to pronounce his last name. It's always a lot of fun. But you know, I see Evan's wife always correcting everybody on the broadcast. So no, it's a ton of fun. And honestly, through that series, as long as the border's open, I don't see why 660 won't reap the benefit of a couple extra cars that are guys that I race with on there, in all honesty. You know, it's just a ton of fun in all seriousness. So, yeah, I remember that broadcast from Jennerstown. Actually, I was on, they had breaks throughout the race or something, and they had a pit reporter. And I kept saying on the broadcast, happy birthday, Zane Farrell, happy birthday, Zane Farrell, happy birthday, Zane Farrell, hoping that they would see it and hoping they would interview him and say, it wasn't his birthday at all. But I was hoping that they were going to stick a mic in his face and wish him happy birthday just to knock him off in the middle of the race. But they never did, unfortunately.
Lenny Baticki is sharp. He knows his stuff. We're showing the Glen race, but I don't think we need to blow Brent's head up any more than we already do on a Thursday night call. So we'll come back to our faces. Before we let you go, Brent, one more time as a race car driver, who do you got in the race car? Who do you want to thank for putting together at least your 21 season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, my mom and dad. Like, I can't thank them enough for what they've done for me. You know, not only 2021, but the last, I don't know, 17, 18 years driving a race car. It sounds crazy to say that, but, you know, I cannot thank them enough for everything they've done. Sewell's Paving is one of our biggest supporters. Michelle Roy, Remax Group 4 Realty, or Remax East Coast Elite Realty now. Tucker Graphics always has a car looking really good. I'll message them on, you know, midnight on a Friday and say, look, I totally forgot to tell you, but we need a whole new right side. And Kyle will go to the shop, print off graphics, drop it off. He'll tell me to put them on myself, but he'll get it done. So that's always a lot of fun. Crown Rust Control, Chips Away, Roblin Home Hardware, you know, Canadian Tire Gas Bar for years and years supplied fuel for us. You know, with a lot of these partners, you know, that was one partner that I enjoyed the most was Canadian Tire Gas Bar, because never gave us any money, just supplied fuel. And I mean, that's a big sponsorship in itself. So, you know, if you're a race team and you're looking for a sponsor, you know, sometimes it's hard for a business to give you a couple $100,000, whatever it might be. Sometimes a trade-off of something that you can raffle off, or a trade-off of something that, you know, you need anyway, that go a long way. So, you know, it's just, like you said before, it's many different ways you can skin a cat. So can't thank all those guys enough, but you know, my crew, I can't thank them enough either. Like I mentioned earlier, Steve, he's got Guinness World Record holder now is pretty freaking cool. And he's been with me since, pretty much day one. And we really learned how to work on Little Orphan Annie together. And it, there's a lot of late nights in the shop figuring out what not to do, in all honesty, and, breaking stuff. And I always said to him, I said to everybody, but, me and Steve had a lot of conversations of, after I broke something or he broke something, I said, you know what? It's okay to break something. It's not okay to do it again. If you break something, then learn from it. That's great. But if you do it a second time, well, now it's starting to cost a little too much money, sort of thing. So we never did that. We always broke something the first time, then learned from it, which is good. But, his dad, Keith, always helped us out on the car. Man, there'd be some late nights. Keith's retired from the government now and working on snowplows and stuff. I remember, I think we had the Sportsman. We had to tell him it's not a snowplow. You don't have to tighten the control arms. So it's not the box of a dump truck. It's not going to fall off. You jack up the truck or jack up the car, and the wheel wouldn't go down because you get the control arms tightened too much, sort of thing. And it's a lot of learning curves, a lot of fun times, a lot of memories in the shop over the years. So those aren't done by any means. Just kind of put on the shelf for a little bit.
This has been fun catching up and breaking the news to everybody with the race director role. And I know we've got to get to Tim Webster. The good news is that Paul said we can go a little bit over time, but I don't want to have him all night here. So thank you for joining us. I'm sure we'll chat throughout the winter, and there's no NEPS race tomorrow night, so you may as well come run road course with us at Lime Rock.
You're running the wrong car. We'll see.
Okay, well, we'll figure. Brandon needs somebody to beat at the end of the night. So
I won't. I don't race road.
Yeah, I don't race road. Yeah, whatever.
Why not?
I don't road.
Fun. Something like that. That's Brent Roy, driver the number 26, race director in 2022. Brent, thanks for everything.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Love what you guys do and help me. And thanks for helping us, with everything you do on the 660 side and helping, obviously break this news and keep as relevant as possible and, keep the Maritimes connected through everything. Appreciate it, Tim.
It's been a blast and looking forward to 2022. But before we go to 2022, let's talk about 2021. We'll continue on with our TCM Best of Racing Awards finalists. We are going to continue with the Kings County Performance Rookie of the Year Award. And these are 5 drivers that, Dylan, have really had decent seasons. You want to look at a guy like Andrew Lively's on this list. Brandon Carter's on this list for their sportsman exports, as is Jason Morris, who lit it up at Lake Dowsett Motor Speedway. Braden Wadden in the 41 Bandolero, or beginner bando champion at Scotia, and Colton Noble in the 03 Legend. He had limited starts in 2020. And Dylan, you can kind of allude to this when we talked about it. The Rookie of the Year rules kind of get muddy, but if you've already been nominated for a Rookie of the Year award on Tim's Corner for the same division, you obviously can't be nominated again. So that's Danny Chisholm's name. If you missed it earlier, he is on the Breakout Performer nomination list, but Colton Noble had a good season himself. So Dylan, I think the fans have a tough decision here when we open the voting beginning tomorrow.
Hold on. Sorry, Tim. I turned my mic down because I wanted Brent to finish what he was saying. Man, there are so many heavy hitters in every division, we'll call it, whether it's the breakout division, Rookie of the Year. I know we're probably going to unveil the paint scheme here in just a moment. And then, of course, the top performer for 2021. And this list here, I mean, I think I saw every single driver here on this list. And Andrew Lively was very impressive, had some solid runs towards the end. Brandon Carter, a couple of wins in the 65. Braden Wadden, a couple of wins in the beginner bandolero division. Jason Morris, that 76 was flying that time I went to Lake Dowsett Motor Speedway. And Colton Noble, that young man, he turned a lot of heads this year in that 03, just building up to a bigger 2022. You'll be able to cast your vote for your favorite Rookie of the Year very soon.
And that'll be probably tomorrow evening. Usually it's popped up between 6 and 8. We don't usually put a hard time on it because we're working on stuff on the back end. And something that we weren't going to announce tonight, but when we announced it last night that we were waiting on a couple of panel votes, it kind of kicked them in the rear end to get them in. So here are your 5 finalists for the 10th annual Kings County Performance Best Looking Car Award. And in no particular order, we've got Alex Johnson in the number 14 Sportsman car, sharp looking paint scheme. Gary Elliott in the 36. Obviously the Quaker State, that green car always turns some heads whenever it's at the racetrack. Gentlemen, we had on the last couple of weeks in Justin Cole and Stacey Clements have made the final ballot, and Courtney Oblinus' 48C Sportsman car as well made the final 5. We had 14 panel votes, I believe, turned in. I think out of the 45 nominations, I think there were 30 that got at least one panel vote. These were the top 5, and the panel votes can't give you the exact ranking because that might influence the way somebody votes. But we'll head to timscorner.ca beginning tomorrow, and you can vote for your favorite in the Best Looking Car Award, the 10th annual Kings County Performance Best Looking Car Award. Want to thank Larry and Jessica Somerville for everything that they do for Tim's Corner Motorsports with the sticker campaign as well this year, along with the Best Looking Car and the Rookie of the Year Awards, presenting sponsors on both of those. We will have, because Jordan Fraser keeps asking for it, we will have the Most Popular Driver Award later in the show. But I want to bring on a guy that he's won about everything in his racing career. And when his racing career was quote unquote done, we say that racing drivers don't retire, but he comes back up, and he is now the race director of the Passion Flooring East Coast Mini Stock Tour. And it's Tim Webster. And Tim, good to have you on the show tonight.
Thanks a lot, Tim and Dylan. I appreciate the effort.
So since we're coming off the Brent Roy interview, he's moving into the race director role. You were a rookie race director in 2021 with this Passion Flooring and Interiors East Coast Mini Stock Tour. So I guess we'll start off with this. Any pointers for Mr. Roy as he hops into a new role?
Pointers. Don't do what I did. No, I found it a real surprise of what was asked of you, right? So I really had to buckle down and concentrate on what was asked and trying to fill that role. So I think listening to people is really important. I try to ask questions of the drivers. Hey, can you hear me okay? And is there anything you need to know when you're on the track that I'm not saying, and that sort of thing. So I tried to get my own personal into this role. So what I tried to do was from all the people that I've listened to on the radio over the years that I've been racing, and I tried not to do what they did, I think, mostly because I was always kind of upset at what they were saying, like, why are you giving me such a hard time, or what, and I didn't do anything wrong and all that stuff. So I tried to I'm trying to be a little more passionate about the role, trying to understand that the guys are going through quite a bit out there, a lot of stress out there on the track, and hopefully they understand that I have the same kind of stress on me as well, to try to organize everything. So yeah, it's tough.
We'll dive into your racing career here in just a moment, but for being out of the seat for a couple of seasons now, and now being on top of the tower and watching those guys buzz around the racetrack, was there any point in the season where you had that fear of missing out? Do you miss it at all?
Well, I miss it. Yes, sir. Definitely miss it. There's definitely a few times when I was out there saying, if I'm up in the tower and I'm thinking, if I was out there, I could probably win this race. but that's a lot of wishful thinking, I'm sure. No, I miss it dearly, really. I mean, I don't miss the work because I never really had much of a crew. It was always just me. But yeah, I had a blast racing. Really did. Best thing I ever did in my life was get into a race car.
We are live and interactive here this evening with Tim Webster, the race director of the Passion Flooring and Interiors East Coast Mini Stock Tour, but also a driver in his own right of the 86 Mini Stock, and has won a bunch of races all throughout Atlantic Canada. So I guess for those that don't know, they might be from Newfoundland or might be a newer race fan. How did you get your start in racing? Because it goes back to the early 2000s, if not before, right?
It goes back to 1999. I started at Moosehead. Moosehead, what was it called? Moosehead
Premium Dry Speedway. Premium Dry Speedway.
There you go. Yeah, thank you. And a friend of mine, a guy I used to work with, his name was Jeff DeKoff. He got a Legend car, and I helped him with the Legend car a little bit and watched him go around. I thought it was a blast. He let me drive it one time, and the Moosehead track had 10 mini stock cars that they would rent out. They had a mini stock division, but they had 10 of their own cars that they'd rent out. So I rented one, and the car was crap. It was a Toyota something that it had no power. It was misfiring, but I could go around the corner the same speed that everyone else was going, but I just couldn't keep up on the straightaway. So I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. So what I did, 2 weeks later, I had my own car ready to go out on the track, and it was a Hyundai Excel. It's just something that I found on the side of the road or something, and slapped the number on it, and there it was. I didn't do very well with it, but it sure got my blood going and the adrenaline going for racing.
You had a lot of success at Exhibition Park before they closed the doors, and it wasn't open for very long. What do you remember about those days out in Prospect?
I remember a lot of fans. I know there was a good crowd of fans out there. I remember always getting in trouble for the first Honda that I got because it was never hitting the rev limiter, and they thought I was doing something cheating or something like that. And I was the only car out there with a 4-speed car. So the second gear was longer, and I didn't need the rev limiter, didn't hit the rev limiter. But I didn't know why. I didn't know. I just knew the cars and racing and didn't know anything about it. And that was one of the biggest things. Was every week I had to explain to them, I don't know why my car doesn't hit the rev limiter. And the track was nice. It was smooth. Very little bumping, and there's good guys to race with. And we got a lot of guys from Scotia Speedway who come down and race with us. And at the time you think, well, these guys are interfering on our racing, but it really helps you to learn that you're not the only guys out there racing. And when you get on the track with the other guys, they're just drivers too. They're just all having a great time.
You found some success at that racetrack too. You got a championship there, don't you?
I do. Yeah, 2001. I won the last year that they were open. I won the championship. Yeah.
So what do you remember about that championship season? They all say you always remember the first one, and I know you have a lot of championships. Some of them sitting behind you. What do you remember about that championship?
I remember the last race. Going into the last race, I think I think it was 20 points or something like that behind the leader, and I was in third place. Ken Zwicker was the leader, and I don't remember the other guy's name, but he was 10 points behind Ken. So getting down to the last laps of the race, there was 10 laps to go, and we had a restart. And on the restart, the guy in second place, don't remember his name, he blew up his car. So now I'm second in points now if I finish the race. And then another restart at 5 to go, and Ken Zwicker blew up his car. So now I win the race and I win the championship, and it was a total shock. It was a lot of emotion. My girlfriend was in the stands at that time, a new girlfriend, and she was into the race and quite now my wife, and she was very excited for me, and it was a great time.
You kind of had two sort of reincarnations of your racing career, because I know you kind of took a little bit of a break in between, but that first half, the Exhibition Park Championship, had some big wins at Scotia Speed World, championships at Scotia Speed World. Take us back to that first half of your racing career and all those wins, because they came, you mentioned Ken Zwicker's name, they came against some of the top talent of the day and some of the biggest fields that we've seen in mini stock racing in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was great competition back then. All kinds of guys with fast cars. I still had that 4-speed car when I went there. Also giving me a hard time about why it wasn't hitting the rev limiter. But the main thing was nobody was driving the upper part of the track. So at the time when I first went there, of course, it was the line up 3 wide. And the flag goes and everybody goes. So it was a really new kind of start for me, trying to deal with that, because it was scary as hell heading into corner 1. When I started running the full track, it was cones up, keeping you down from the wall, but I'd run on full track, and it was easier to pass up there because nobody else was up there. And we used to run where the bandos go now. So anyway, I remember distinctly Ken Zwicker saying to me, "You seem to like the outside." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, it's not as many cars out there." And he says, "Yeah, if you want it, it's all yours. You can have it all to yourself." So I started learning, and it came the rest of my career. Started learning how to drive that outside line, and I think you probably remember that a lot of my wins came from passing people on the outside when nobody would ever go out there. So it was really just a matter of setting up your car to get to run better on the outside. But yeah, a lot of competition there, a lot of good wins. 2 championships at Scotia Speed World, 2005, 2006, and they were really nice to have. Yeah, and against the best that were there, Ken Zwicker specifically, and Drew McEachern, who's probably listening in. He was always pretty good competition out there. I remember I was watching one. I made videos of the races, of cameras on my roof, and I was watching a race not too long ago, and I was in the lead, had pretty good lead, and watching my rear camera, and I see a car coming up behind me, and then lo and behold, it's Drew McEachern, and I'm like, well, he'll never catch me. 5 laps later, he passed me. I'm like, what the hell? Anyway, so I think he won that race, and yeah, a lot of fun for sure.
And I know there's another one in there that race back in the day that's watching. Jason Pickles is tuned in and said had some great times racing with you, Tim. So everything has changed. But before we kind of leave that era and go into the next one and maybe check in with social, you mentioned the standing starts, and Kathy would run down and park everybody on the front and then run back up to the flag stand and that sort of thing. But the Thunder on the Hill, when it used to be 100 laps and used to have 50, 60, 70 cars in the racetrack. What do you remember about those big races? Because I know they were fun to watch from the grandstand. What were they like from the race car?
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion for sure. It's part of the rules was no yellows basically, but they'd either have a red flag or green flag. So you wouldn't really see a red flag until you were in view of it. If you're past it, you wouldn't see it, but you'd stop on the track because that's what they told you to do. If you see a red flag, stop. And then you'd stop and you'd see people passing you. So it's a lot of confusion back there. But just the starts alone were mayhem, really, going into corner 1. Everyone, of course, thinking they can win it on the first lap. I do remember back then they had you had to provide your own scorer to keep track of your laps. And my wife was doing it for me a few times there, and the first time she did it, I guess the rule was when your car that you're scoring reaches 100 laps, you put your hand up, you wave your hand, 100 laps, and she did that, and nobody came, and it was 3 laps later that they finally came down and stopped the race. So I actually went 103 laps.
There you go. Now, you took that little bit of a break in your racing career. For those that don't know, when was that, and why did you take that little bit of a pause?
It started in, I'm looking at my trophies here. It stops in 2007. So, yeah, it was 2007. I finished second in the points to, I don't remember. Damn. Anyway, so 2007, my son was born in 2004. So by the time he was getting old enough to know, who was around him and not who's not around him, I figured I'd better be around more than I was. So I took a little break to take more time with my son and family and make some commitments there, meet some commitments there. Mostly that's the reason, yeah.
I'm going to double check, but 2007, I think, might have been the year that Darren Leonard came back, and Darren won the points that year. Because I know if he's listening, he will not let us forget that. We'll go to social media now. Brandon, what do you got over there? I know it's starting to light up a little bit.
Yeah, we got a few things over here. Freddie Bannister's still in here, and he wants stock and, kind of towards the end, who was a guy that kind of just started showing up then and he's broken out ever since?
I do remember some of the PEI guys coming down to join us. I remember some guys when I started racing at Petty. Some of those guys would come down to see us. So particular names: J.R. Lawson, for sure. Hasn't raced much at Scotia, but he did have a really excellent career racing. And racing now. Oh, there's not Lowry, guy from Pictou. Do you remember Tim?
Oh, are you talking Taylor McLean?
Tanner McLean, or Taylor McLean, yes. He doesn't race anymore, but when he started, he was just your average Joe, and then he picked it up really quick. Yeah, not nobody coming really to my mind, but I'm terrible with names. If you know anything about me, I don't remember people's names very well at all.
I'm gonna add to your question, or to Freddie's question a little bit. Who would you say was your biggest competition in recent times? Because I haven't gone to the track that long, so.
Well, back in the day, it was definitely Kenny's Vicar. There was an Arsenal guy there, Arsenal. Jamie Arsenal, and through the years, definitely, as long as Kenny was racing, he was a good competition. When Dave Matthews came, I think I came back to racing when Dave Matthews was starting his career at Scotia, and he was always really good competition. We've had quite a rivalry over the years. Both of the Warren brothers, they were always quite the competition. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. 31, Darren 22, Darren, yeah. There's a lot of the guys that don't race anymore that were the great competition, but Cody Burns from Cape Breton, or from PEI, he's definitely made a name for himself in the 4-cylinder. I think I'm missing some people that are really probably, hey, what about me, kind of thing out there. But I know I'm missing somebody for sure.
I know you're the race director guy, but maybe you know a little bit more about this. Ty McQuarrie asked about Oyster Bed, and Brent asked about 660. So do you have anything planned on the schedule this year that you know of yet?
No, I don't know anything about the schedule this year. Drew McEachran's the guy to talk to about scheduling, but most times, being a tour, they kind of work out their own schedules, and then they see where they can fit us in. So we don't usually get a schedule until basically last minute, really.
Who else we have here? Randy Titus says he loves how you run your program, Tim, and it's fun to run clean and hard with your drivers. So he's one of the 660 guys that gets to race with the Hondas every once in a while.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much.
We mentioned Jason Pickles. Richard Atkinson talks about the standing starts, or something that Riverglade Speedway did back in the day. And did you ever make it to Riverglade?
No. Yes, I did. That's right. One time, Ken Zwicker, me, Jamie Arsenal, somebody else, I can't remember, older fella that at the time was older. Now I'm older. We took the weekend and went to, we raced at Scotia, then Saturday it was Riverside, and then we went to Riverglade the next day on Sunday. So that was quite a weekend of racing. That was way back then, though.
Ryan McKnight says he always looked up to you when he started racing, a clean driver and always had a good car. And he wishes that you were still racing now that he's more competitive. I think he thinks he can give you a run for your money.
Well, I definitely wish that I could get in a car that I am comfortable with to race with some of these guys that I see racing now. Especially Brian. I mean, I did race with him at Petty quite a bit. he was struggling with handling and struggling with the car that he was setting up, and now he's got something that he can really drive and really that's fast. So yeah, I would love to race with especially him for sure.
Matt Watson also said he always enjoyed racing against you too. He's one of the PEI guys.
Yeah.
We speak of Drew, and look who pops up in the chat. He says a lot of good times over the years, some heated ones too. One of the best mini stock setup guys, and behind the wheel too. And he also thinks you're doing a good job. He says you're a damn good race director.
Thanks very much, Drew. Speaking of setup, I'll tell you, I started messing around with setup, and I was always one to not mess with stuff. I was always one to just kind of what works, leave it kind of thing. And then Kyle Gammon is another race car driver that I should have mentioned earlier, but he kind of gave me a few tips that were way outside the realm of whatever I was doing. So it kind of made me think, it doesn't hurt to try shit. It doesn't hurt to try. So you throw something at it that you don't know is going to work, but at least you learn from it. What does it do? And that helps you in the future if your car is doing the opposite of what you want, and maybe this other thing that you tried is what you want to throw into the car to make it do what you want this time. There's a lot of different tracks around the Maritimes, different banking, different straightaways, and you really gotta be on the ball of what works and what doesn't work.
Richard Atkinson wants you to know that he thinks you look like Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers. Well, that's with the white beard now. I've only grown this the last few years, and I shave it off every couple of months just because I get tired of it. But I'll take that. Kenny Rogers is a pretty handsome fella, I guess.
What are you gonna sing for us tonight?
Well, Dolly Parton couldn't make it tonight, so I do a duo. But
okay, how about this? Tim is Dolly, and you guys sing "Islands in the Stream" together.
Do you know the words? Both. This is like a Tim duo.
I know those words. Islands in the Stream. That is what we are. Yeah.
That's a Saturday night thing, I think, though.
Yeah.
That's something when the cameras aren't rolling. There was that one time at Speedway Miramichi's banquet, but we'll leave that alone. That was a John Michael Montgomery tune, by the way. There's a couple of more over there, but we'll let social fill up a little bit more. So if you have a question or a comment, drop it below, and we'll get it to Tim. I'm going to talk about the second half of your career before we transition into the mini stock tour side of things. So you paused in that 2007 year after the run with Darren Leonard, but when did you restart that racing career, and why did you get back into the seat?
I got back in the seat because my son started learning about what I was doing in racing, and was interested in seeing me race. I made some videos. He watched a few videos, and he was very interested, and my wife was okay with me taking the time. So, found a piece of crap car somewhere and got back on the track and finished 12th, I think. And it was very embarrassing, of course, for myself, thinking that I could just go back to the track and be good. But yeah, you sure learn quick that you need a good car, you need a good setup. So, eventually, I think I went through 6 different cars in my later career, but that started in 2000. I dare say 12, because I'm looking at my shelf here, and I have a trophy from 2013. So I know I didn't win any trophies the first year I went back. So I'm going to guess 2012.
And you had some success. Obviously, it took a little while to get back into the seat and get back into the rhythm of things, but the mid 2000s really was where you hit your stride, and you've got the championship banners behind it to prove it. But I know 16 you really lit it up, and then 17 came all that success. So East Coast Mini Stock Tour Championship, Petty Raceway Championship, Power Performer. What do you remember about that year? Because that was really your year to light it up, and every mini stock guy was chasing that 86 car, it seemed like.
Yeah, what do I remember from that? I that year was a blur of race, change the car, race, go to a different track, change the car, race. I by then I think I'd already had my setups for different tracks figured out. So there was a lot of Saturday Friday night race at Scotia, come home for about 10 o'clock, 10:30, jack the car up, work on it till about 1 in the morning, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to Petty with the new different setup and practice, adjust and do your best. But 2017, wow, yeah, I think I won the first race of the year at Scotia, and I was surprised because it seemed like the car was just perfect, and from then on I had just had to make very little changes, if any, to go from different track to different track, and it was definitely some tracks that didn't have success that week. I think we went to 660 that year at 17, and for the first time, and I couldn't get that track at all. I couldn't figure it out, and then the car overheated, and that gave me an excuse to get off the track, I think, more than anything. But that was not a good experience for me. Petty was always, I've raced there a lot, so I've got a lot of laps, especially on the outside, and even the tour guys that were racing with me at Scotia were like, hey, how do you race up there? How do you pass? But it's really a matter of setup of the car and making it work up there. But it was definitely a surprise to have all that success. I think 7 wins in 21 races, and the Power Performer of the Year award was at the time the highlight of my career, and I, you can see it behind me. I'm that proud of it. That's where it is, right behind me, and winning the Tour Championship, the inaugural championship that year, was it's like you don't think you have a chance, and the next thing you know, you won it. Raced at Petty that year and won the championship there as well, and that was a hard fought battle. There was a lot of good fast cars there. So how do I feel about it? It's amazing to just think that I have that in my arsenal of career winnings, and I'm really proud of it, and I don't mind talking about it ever. So if anybody ever wants to talk about it.
And to have that success after having the couple of years you did off, and having the success in the early 2000s and having it again in the mid 2010s, what was that like to kind of have that resurgence and come back to the front of the field, albeit different time? Cars were still somewhat the same, but maybe different drivers, a newer generation. What did it feel like to have that resurgence?
Yeah, it was a struggle at first, for sure. Trying to figure out setups, and that's when I started, like I was saying, just throwing whatever at the car and see what happens, because you'd be surprised what works when you think it won't work. But a lot of the people that were giving me advice at the time were some people that weren't racing but had a lot of success, and it was great to hear those people and their experiences with what they made work on their cars, and I mean, when you can go out in a track, and I think I heard someone else say it earlier tonight, you hit the wall and you bend something, but now your car is faster, and you don't know why, so you figure out what that did and work on it, right? But yeah, it was a lot of fun getting back in the car, for sure, because I had missed it quite a bit, and having my son and wife up in the stands, and a few of my friends would come out that were new friends, right, that didn't know about my racing. Sometimes family would come down from Ontario or something, and they'd be there to watch me race, and it was that was the time that I really started getting a lot of feedback from my family about the racing, because earlier on it wasn't really something that was discussed with the whole family. It was just something that I did, But when I won the championship at Petty the second time in 2017, the family had a little party for me. I wasn't expecting it at all. It was, it was a lot of fun just getting that recognition from the families too. So yeah, and I do remember you having a hand in getting me an article in Speed. What is it? Canadian
Inside Track.
Inside Track Racing in the Canadian magazine there, and I had full page, and that's a another proud moment for me, and I still have those magazines in the house there. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of fun.
Before I hand it off to Dylan, I want to ask you, and we asked Dave the question when we did the shop stop a couple of seasons ago, because he's been involved in racing for so many years and won so many things. He had a couple of things on his bucket list that he wanted to check off, and I know Miramichi and PEI are still on that bucket list for him. But is there anything that was on your bucket list that maybe was left unchecked that you wanted to do, or maybe if you get the opportunity again to hop back in a race car in a one-off that you try to get?
First of all, yeah, PEI, the Oyster Bed. I never raced there. I'd love to do it. When we went there with the tour and I was directing, I saw the track and how it drives, and definitely want to do that someday if I can. But I remember going the first time I went to Cape Breton's Sydney Speedway. I won the first time I went there, and was never able to even get a podium after that. So that's another thing. I'd love to win back at Cape Breton track one more time. But of course, probably never happened. But yeah, bucket list things. Speedway 660. I would dearly love to figure that track out. Probably that, and I guess go back to Riverside. Riverside has become my favorite track over the years that I've raced there.
And I think that Cape Breton race was the race you took a bucket load of money out of there, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a nice payday. Wasn't expecting it. Didn't even know about it. And here it is. Yeah, and I was like, what? It was awesome.
Now I got one more before I hand it to Dylan, because I know Paul's got a couple of those stills that are sitting there in the B-roll. But for those that don't know, your celebration when you got out of the race car was pretty phenomenal as well, right straight on the roof. How did that come to be? How did that come to be your trademark?
Well, I mean, I did do that at Moosehead track when I won there, and I think I don't know how it happened or how it started, but I just remember being so excited at the first time that I won, and especially when I won the championship there, just overwhelmed with excitement that I have to do something crazy. And if I don't know if you know my personality, I'm not a really out there kind of person all the time, but when I am. So yeah, to get up on the roof and just let everybody know how excited I was about winning and just having everyone cheer, it's one of the best feelings in the world, really.
Dylan, I think the first time that Mike McCarthy got to see Tim Webster win, I remember telling him, "You better get to the other side of the car." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Just wait for it." And Mike McCarthy finally figured out why we ended up doing that. But Dylan, what do you got for Mr. Webster?
I got a whole lot for Tim here. I know we're kind of getting towards the bitter end, but a couple of questions for you, Tim. I want to go back to Moosehead Premium Dry Speedway. I think towards the end it was Exhibition Park Speedway. What do you remember about that track closing? Was it kind of sudden? Was it a little expected? What was your perspective as a mini stock driver with the closing of that track?
I think we were all very surprised. So the season ended. We got the notification of a banquet maybe happening, and then all of a sudden, nope, it's not going to happen. And I didn't even get a trophy from that year from the track. So at the time, I was working with some really great people in a cabinet shop, and they actually put together a trophy for me that had all the details on it from the track and the year, and that was really special to get that from my friends for sure. Yeah.
Tim, I remember one of the first times when I started working at Riverside. I remember you pulled up, and different people have different rides to bring their cars, whether it's mini stock or pro stock. Some just have the truck and trailer, some have a giant trailer. You had a minivan and almost like a U-Haul little trailer you hook the front two tires on, and you mentioned it's pretty much a one-man crew. How have you found that to help or maybe hinder? I mean, you got a lot of success, but doing the one-man deal with a minivan, how did that come to be?
Yeah, doing that with the minivan, and you probably weren't around for before the minivan. I actually towed my race car with a 1993 Pontiac Sunfire convertible for quite a while.
Holy
So
mackerel.
that was quite something to pull into racetracks with that for whatever years I had it. I don't remember how long I had it, but yeah, the minivan. It's a great little way to get around because it does not. It's lots of room. It's not terrible on gas, and when you're pulling just the dolly rather than a full trailer, it really helps with the stability of the car. So yeah, I went a long way with that little white minivan that I had, and I think I had 400K on it by the time it was said and done, and always beating the hell out of that little van for sure.
No racing for you behind the wheel in 2021, but I remember at Sydney Speedway, you got a call from Greg Dow to get behind Greg McKay's old car. How was that one-off deal you had at Sydney last year?
Well, it wasn't expected. I got up there to help with whatever needed to be done that day, and ended up rebuilding a transmission for the car that I ended up driving. Mark Williams invited me up, and he was supposed to drive the car, but I don't remember how it happened, what was the final decision, but somebody just said, "Hey, if you want to drive." So got in. It was not the best setup in the world. I was struggling getting around the corner, and we worked on the car all day, but it never really came around to where I like it. But I did have a great battle with I think for, I don't know, it might have been 12th place, 11th place, third from last, we'll say. And at the end of the race, I was just getting my gloves off in the car, and the guy that I was racing with side by side for like 10 laps came over, and I was expecting a punch in the face, and he said, "Man, that was the best racing I ever had." And I was like, "Well, that's cool, man. Thanks a lot." I'm not sure if he knew how long I'd been in a race car, but and my reputation driving clean. But I had a lot of fun. But the car wasn't where I wanted it to be, but it's all in fun.
Looking through the messages here, I did see Drew say for Prince Edward Island race, he could find another race director and you could get behind the wheel. You haven't thrown the R word out. You'd get behind the wheel if the right opportunity came, or if someone said, "Hey, I want a good driver. Tim, can you fill in this car here?"
Well, I wouldn't say no, right? But what I do like to do is at least sit in the car and see if I feel comfortable in the car. I was always, I think for setup reasons, a lot of drivers like to have the seat as low as possible, and you barely see over the over the dash, and can't really see to the side or anything. But I was always one of those people. I wanted to be up a little bit and be able to see better, and I like to be kind of up on the wheel a little bit so I'm not stretched all back. And that's the way that I set up my driving seat was always way different than anybody else. So I guess that's
Webster, you were one of the first guys I remember having a GoPro on your car and posting the videos to YouTube. What did you start doing that, and why did you start doing it, and did it help your racing career?
The last question, did it help my racing career? Not really, but I always had a lot of compliments from people. Keep doing it because it's helping my car, because they see their car behind me or ahead of me and how it's reacting on the track, and they'd say, "Oh, I want to fix that." So so I got a lot of compliments on people telling me to keep doing it because they wanted to fix their cars. But I started doing that. I dare say I'm going to say 2014, 15 maybe. I ended up getting a second camera for the rear of the car, so front and rear views, and um, it came upon just from me hearing that other people were doing it, or somebody did it, and I watched the video on YouTube, and I'd say, yeah, I want to do that. I want to make videos. I want to have something of my racing legacy to watch in my old age, which I'm in now. So I watch them quite often in the garage. But was there a third part to that question? I can't remember.
When, why, and did it help your career? So I
Right.
guess why, when.
Why
So
was just because I thought it would be cool and help to remember that I used to do that when I can't remember anymore.
Well, I know it always gives, at least for me, when I started getting into the racing industry, to get that perspective from the drivers and get that onboard view of, okay, this is what it's really like. And
Yeah.
for someone and now you are in the tower, we get different perspectives all the time, but to see that from the driver's perspective, it is pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I remember at Petty one year, I took the camera and I sort of I put it in the car and I aimed it down at me. So I think the video is view of the driver, I think is what I titled it. And at the time I had a specific transmission in there that I had to shift. So here, I'm shifting twice every lap or 4 times every lap when you think about it. And I got a lot of comments on that, like how do you shift? How do you make all those decisions in a split second and blah blah blah? And I'm like, well, it's really automatic, and that's how you kind of started at Scotia Speed World. You had to shift there once they brought in the rule at Scotia of no 4-speed transmissions, and I had to learn. I always knew how to drive a standard, but learning to shift was just automatic after a while, and your shift points. So, but I thought it would be a cool video to make for someone who didn't know how to shift, and they could watch that and pick it up maybe, I guess. But anyway, yeah.
Tim Terry, we're learning lots from a great mini stock driver, and there's all that footage still on YouTube too for anyone in mini stock racing.
Absolutely, we are, and I'm going to mention to Paul if we can go over maybe to 9:15 or so his time, 10:15, so we can get a couple of extra minutes here with Tim. We'll make last call on social right now. So if you have any questions or comments for Tim, and I know there's one there from Kyle Gammon that we're going to talk about, and I see one that Matt Watson just put up. So we'll go to Brandon in just a moment, but I want to ask about the mini stock tour because you've seen this thing come full circle. You've been there since day number one, where you've raced in the series, won the championships, been a part of the back end, trying to put everything together, and now being the race director. So from year one back in 17 to now, talk about the progression, because I know from experience being involved in it too, it's come a long way. But from your perspective, how far has it come in these short amount of time?
And you talk about the first year being 2017, but really 2016 was the year that everybody was talking about it, and it was going to happen. It's going to happen, and I at the time was maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, right? And then the first year it comes out happens to be the year that I was doing really well, and I think the tour's come huge bounds. I mean, we've just last year changed it to not just Hondas, to anybody who wants to race, as far as 4-cylinder and single overhead cam, I think, and anybody can come race with us, and it's huge to be able to go to the home track that maybe doesn't have a field of Hondas like 660, and they can join us now, and we had a great turnout when we went up there this year. That was great.
And I don't really want to open Pandora's box, so I want to walk a little bit of a fine line here with this question, but you've been involved in this since 1999, and we're going into 2022. Where do you see this division going in 5 or 10 years? Obviously 660s hit on something with their domestic deal, but the Hondas have been a mainstay for the last 20 years. So where do you see this thing going in 5-10 years? Peer into your crystal ball.
Well, there's a lot of talk. There's only so many Hondas out there that are, so they're trying to bring in the newer generations. I don't see a lot of them out there at the moment, but any car can be a race car. You just, if you can set it up to race and it's got decent power, then it can be a race car for sure. I know, like I said, my first race car was a Honda XL. It wasn't a great car, but it sure was a race car to me. So yeah, I think in the future of the mini stock tour itself, I'm hoping to expand a little bit on the cars themselves, but it's not just me. I have very little say in anything. My opinion is usually asked, but the final decisions are not mine for sure.
I see social. There's a couple of comments on there. Brandon, what do you have over there?
Yeah, I assume Kyle Gammon's still watching, but he said when he was younger, he used to sit and watch and learn from you, who was the best. And he said to grow up and actually have the battles on the track with you was something he never thought he could do, but he was proud of himself for being able to do. And he said, "You're the man."
Thanks, Kyle. I'll tell you what I remember with Kyle. Scotia Speed World, probably when I was just getting back into it, to maybe 2014, 15. And we had an awesome battle for 10th. And we both got out of the car at the end of the race and said that was the best battle for 10th I ever had.
Drew McEachern and Colin Brewer both said that they'll lend you a car if you want to go race in PEI. So I think you got to get that done.
All right. Well, I'll have to get another dolly. I still have my race too. So I have to get another dolly to hook onto the old van. I got the same van, just a different color now. So.
And then this is one that's kind of been talked about for a long time with the Hondas. Matt Watson says, with all the controversy between the 88 to 91s, the 92 to 95s, which one do you prefer?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question because, of course, I started out with the 89 4-speed. I had a 91 a couple times. They were great cars, and really, I guess in my career, you want to try new things. I always wanted to try new things. So I went to a 92. I was the first 92 car to win a feature, I think, at Scotia Speed World, and I think I had the first championship with it at there as well, which was really proud moments for me, trying something new and making success of it. So yeah, I don't know if I can take that any further or not.
Just to kind of add to what you guys talked about a second ago, and kind of with this whole Honda disappearing thing, what do you think is the next thing? Is it the Jason Pickle style, or is it something completely different, like a Mazda or anything else?
Yeah, geez, Mazdas are, they're similar to Hondas, where there's a lot of different transmission parts. There's a lot of different setup stuff you can buy for it. Once you figure that stuff out, there's lots of power there. So the Mazdas are definitely something. But I mean, when you got a guy with coming out there with a Toyota that's probably 1,000 pounds, 800,000 pounds heavier than any Honda, and he's kicking their butts, and I think you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, Brian McKnight is really made that Toyota something for sure.
And Kyle Gammon wants us all to know that the 96 to the 2000s are the way to go.
Yeah, probably so. But he hasn't seen that Toyota on the track either.
I'm sure
that's all we got, Tim.
I'm sure he's seen it roll through tech a couple of times, so I'm sure he's seen it either there or on Tim's Corner TV. But looking forward to 2022, we'll kind of go off and transition this way. We asked Brent the same question. As a race fan, as a race director, what are you most looking forward to next year?
I am looking forward to this role as race director. I think I take it very seriously. I think that it's important for the guys to know what's going on the track as early as possible. I know there's been lots of times when I've been super surprised by something going on the track. I'm like, why hasn't anybody said it? So I try to keep up on that. I try to make sure the starts are even and well controlled. I don't know if anybody's ever listened to me on the radio on a restart, but I'm pretty particular about how I want the guys to line up. So I'm looking forward to that, because I think the tour is going to take off a little more now that a few more people are going to be able to race with us, and with this whole COVID situation hopefully coming around a little more, that we can definitely get to the tracks that we want to get to and not having any cancellations. We've had a lot of cancellations.
Now, before we go, one final question. Give us a little bit of a sales pitch. Why should those drivers that, maybe watch the race in Fredericton that had a race car, or maybe when the tour rolled into town last year and they didn't put their car on the racetrack, why should they be racing with the East Coast Mini Stock Tour when it rolls into town in 22?
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to race against the best, because we've always got the best drivers in the Maritimes racing on the tour at any time. And if you want to, just try it out, but if you really think that you can stack up against the best in the Maritimes, that this is where it is. I mean, your home track is typically the same guys. You race against them, you win, maybe a third of the time, and you think you're the best. And then you get on this tour and you realize that maybe there's some other guys out there that I need to step up my game, and that's what I think is that it's just racing against the best in the Maritimes.
And we've seen it time and time again, caution-free races, and the great race that we saw with Ryan McKnight and Dave Matthews up in Fredericton. And I think back to the Darren Fleming and Dave Matthews thing, by the way, and I don't know how much I can let the cat out of the bag, but I do know that Darren Fleming has something lined up for 2022. So
awesome.
It's going to be great to see him back out on the racetrack. So
yeah.
It'll be great. Tim, this was fun. We could go on for another hour or so, I'm sure, but thanks for joining us, and look forward to the next time we get to do this. And the Saturday night deal, I guess I got to find a wig and be Dolly Parton, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I do. Before we go, I want to apologize to Andrew Warren for mooning him after the Riverside race last time.
I guess we can leave it at that, right?
I was a little sour after losing that race.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some more stories we can tell, but we're at the end. That's a next time story, so he can come up with some ammo to fight back, right?
For sure.
Tim, this has been fun. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
And now we've got the most popular driver finalists coming up on the screen. And Brandon, do you want to read these?
Yeah, give me a second. Let me pull up the Discord.
Get the Discord. Okay.
It's really small.
Okay, we're going to transition it. And here we go. Read these names that are on the screen.
I think you spelt a few of them wrong. Mine's not there.
So
go ahead.
We needed to wait another about 40 seconds or 50 seconds because Jordan's been waiting, so we have to put something else in front of it. This is the iRacing Winter Championship point standings. This isn't the most popular driver finalist, but your name's not on here yet, but it's still plenty early in the season, right? Only 4 races in.
Yeah, Brent Roy's isn't there either. I mean, you win some, you lose some. But Noel Fougere is holding off Dustin Monmarquette so far, so that's it's good to see for Noel. John Byron's 3rd, Dave Cassidy's 4th, Craig Tully 5th, Richard Drake 6th, tied with Tan Wildridge, Jason Goss 8th, Brett Suggs 9th, Matthew Barkhouse 10th. Mike would be having a ball right now. Jason Goss in 8th and Bob Hutchings in 11th, and then Mike Rano also tied for 11th.
Yeah, he would be having a ball. Our next broadcast, by the way, for Vidane TV with the TCM deal is next Thursday, and it is what race exactly, Brandon?
Next Thursday? Oh, tomorrow's not broadcasted, right?
Tomorrow's not broadcasted. We are running street stocks at Lime Rock, so if there's any iRacers out there that want to run with us, you're more than welcome to come. But next Thursday is
the main man, Southern National Legend Car, 99 laps, open setup.
World record holder, right?
Yes, yeah, the main man is what it's called.
The main man. Okay,
yes.
So I didn't know we were racing with like John Peters and all them, but that's good to know.
No, they're the backup crew.
No, that's the main man right there. Is John Peters, right? Right, Paul?
I don't think Paul's alive at this point.
Oh no, I'm alive.
Hold on,
yeah,
stand
correct,
by. Here we go.
There we go.
If that's something, we can't hear you through Zoom.
That's kind of.
I don't know what you just unmuted, but we can't hear you through Zoom. There you go. Try now and go.
The eggnog is strong.
The eggnog is strong. So why don't we just transition and go to the next slide, because that's what everybody's still waiting on here. It is the 10th annual TCM Most Popular Driver Award finalists, and obviously the yellow numbers are the rookie drivers' first time in the final round, and those include one of the names that Jordan's been waiting on is Chris Reed, Alexandra Oblinus, Amber Eason, and Tyler Hallahan. Finalists for the first time in the round of 10. And then you have former champions Austin Hiscock and Gary Elliott, reigning champion, Tanton Woolridge, Sarah Thorne, Ashton Tucker, and Wild Willie Hurlbert also in there on the top 10. So that will go back to on Thursday. And I think, Dylan, the biggest upsets on that screen are probably the fact that Megan Parrott is not there for the first time since 2015, I think. And Randy Miller's not there. So there are two drivers that I think it's all, not saying it's the end of the era, but I think they're kind of transitioning out. So voting begins on Thursday. We haven't had a repeat champion. Austin Hiscock and Gary Elliott are on that screen. So they could very well have a repeat championship. But I will tell you, round number 2 doesn't mean a whole lot. There was, I think, 3 votes in between first and second. Can't tell you who it was. I will tell you that between 10th and 11th was 2 votes. So the cutoff was really close this time. But history trying to repeat itself. We haven't had a winner of one of the first 2 qualifying rounds win the Most Popular Driver Award since Isabel Getson in 2018. I think she won round number 1. And when Randy Miller won his year, he won round number 2. So I can tell you that the same driver won round 1 and round 2, but it was close in that second round. So that's the list. Voting begins tomorrow night, along with the best looking car, along with the breakout performer, along with the Rookie of the Year award for that one. So boys, this has been fun. It was a great show. We ran a little overtime. Thank you to Loose Lugs for not running tonight. I know it's Thanksgiving weekend down in the States. So want to thank Paul for giving us a little extra time here, but this has been fun. Busy weekend for you guys coming up, because I don't think there's any there's no iRacing. Well, Brandon, you might be racing tomorrow. There's no iRacing for Dylan. So Dylan's it's a slower weekend for you. Got any hockey or anything?
Hockey. Got a couple Lumberjack games coming up again. Pick the County Friday night, then the Valley on Saturday. We're hoping to God we can pull a win out of our behinds, but we'll try. So we're back at the rink after a little roadie to New Brunswick, and that's in Bridgewater. So that's going to be kind of fun. So if you're in the South Shore and you want to watch some hockey, check out some of the South Shore Lumberjack games coming up Friday and Saturday evening. So kind of a weekend off from the racing. Snowball Derby's coming up the next weekend, but I'm sure I'll end up on YouTube watching old races or something.
I might have to slide up Friday to Truro, because I know Truro's playing at home to Summerside, even though that kind of sounds like a lopsided game the way Summerside's been playing. But nonetheless, Brandon, you're going to be busy, I'm sure.
It's actually a pretty slow weekend. Not much going on. I'm sure we'll get some iRacing in, but it's a pretty slow weekend. I think the Snowball's next weekend, right?
Yep, Snowball's next weekend. There's some racing going on. I think the Thanksgiving Classic at Southern Nationals going on. There's a couple of other things as well, but it's a slower weekend with Thanksgiving going on with the Vidane TV side. Paul, I don't think we have anything scheduled until next Wednesday?
Yeah, I believe next Wednesday is the next time we come back on the air here.
Okay, so for the record, he's talking, I think, on the show, but we can't hear him on the return feed.
See, that doesn't make any sense. Hey, let's do this. Boom. Yep. Yeah, we're going to mute everybody else. Stand by. That's right. So now they're talking in the background, and I can't concentrate and Tim knows that. But yeah, with ATV, got a lot of stuff coming up here in the next couple of months. Next week is going to be Loose Lugs Cup Series. Going to be a throwback weekend at Darlington. Going to be big time. Special event next Thursday night, December 2nd for Tim's Corner Motorsports, and bringing us on all the way through the winter months and kicking off into 2022. Lots of stuff coming up here on Vidane TV.
And good. We're good. Okay,
There we go.
We don't know what Paul said, but we assume that it sounded excellent. Picks to win the Snowball Derby and the Snowflake. Freddie had said that we will wait until Brandon's made his choice. We'll wait until next week until we see an entry list. Want to thank our guests, Brent Roy and Tim Webster. Great show. I love these conversation sort of shows during the winter. We're going to continue that on just because we can, pick the brain, kind of sit back, and it's not a labor intensive sort of show in the middle. We're always looking for guest ideas. I know Freddie had mentioned to bring Logan on. We'll have to bring Logan on at some point, but we'll, I'm sure, chat Snowball Derby next week, and we'll chat some other guests up. But that's going to do it here this evening. Thank you to Paul Strickland Jr. for producing and everybody else that had a role in this show. On behalf of Brandon Campbell and Dylan Langell, my name is Tim Terry. Until next Wednesday, keep the hammer down, and
we'll see you at the
See you at the
track.